For a group to become a team, they must go through 4 stages: forming, storming, norming and performing. The amount of time a group spends at these stages can vary, and it also, even if they progress through all 4 of these stages and successfully become a team, it doesn't always stay that way. For example, if a key player leaves a team, they may revert back to the storming stage as people are fighting for positions in the team.
During the forming stage, it is where members of the group start to familiarise themselves with each other, and also then go on to find out the weaknesses and strengths of each other. Also, during the forming stage, people start to test their relationships against each other and seeing if they can actually fulfil the group's targets and work together. But also, then they'll actually look at the targets and whether they think they can actually work together to achieve, like, say, titles and cups and stuff like that, or whether they feel they'll be better in a different type of group.
During the storming stage, conflict begins to develop between individuals in the group. This often happens because it's people who want in more demanding roles in the team, and other people want to fight for it. A good example of this would be Remember the Titans, which is a film. This is about NFL players coming together from different backgrounds and different individuals, causing conflict with each other and starting to begin to form as a team, as well as using that conflict to get over difficulties and weaknesses.
Norming stage is after the storming stage. Norming stage is when all the individuals start coming together after all the conflict has finished and they start working towards one goal instead of one individual goal and start coming together as a team.
The performing stage is when the team comes together and starts working effectively without any conflict. It's when the team comes together and they take responsibilities for each other, so they're not working as individuals, they're working as a team. Any achievement they earn, they share as a team, not individually.
Social loafing is basically where group members do not put 100% effort in due to being in a group and rather than on themselves. When they're on themselves, they're more motivated to do well as there's more limelight on them. So they'll put more effort in than when there's a bunch of people around them also playing. An example of this could be tug of war. If you're doing it on yourself against, let's say, your best friend, then you'll play better, you'll try harder when you're just on your own. But when there's a group, you might not put as much effort in because you're relying on your team members to do more work.
Cohesion is a dynamic process that unites a team being able to stick together to aim for one goal that the team wants to get, and also the objectives of the team.
Social cohesion relates to how well a team gets on outside of sport. So regardless of whether they win or lose, they still get on with each other. To build social cohesion, we could go on a night out in town or go pitch.
Task cohesion is where a group or a team of players work together to achieve a common goal or objective. Both types of cohesion, to a certain degree, are about performance. But however, task cohesion looks at more the performance of the player.
There are 4 factors that affect cohesion. These are environmental, personal, leadership and team. So environmental factors, groups that are closer in terms of location tend to be more cohesive and they have greater opportunities from relationships. The individual characteristics of group members are important in group cohesion. For example, if players are more motivated than others, then it's going to leave a different balance in the team. But if they're all motivated and they're all confident, then they're going to achieve things together better.
Personalities are key factors that affect cohesion. Team factors: if the team stays together for a long period of time and experiences success as well as failure, that means they get more productive and also more cohesive.
Kurt Lewin, the renowned psychologist and researcher, said it well. There's nothing so practical as a good theory. Well, how about 10 good theories? To improve your ability to lead, here are 10 of the best-known leadership theories in 5 minutes. First are what was originally called the great man theory. It postulated that great leaders are born, not made. You either have it or you don't. And then it tried to identify the set of attributes that all of these natural-born leaders have in common. While it's now become clear that leadership is actually learnable, there's indeed truth to the notion that some people inherently have more leadership gifts than others. So this was a good start. It spawned something called the trait theory of leadership, a line of research that examines which individual characteristics we should pursue to lead effectively. The upside is that it's easy to understand. Be like this and people will follow you. But the downside is that it's identified dozens of traits, and no single set has emerged as the ideal for all circumstances, so it can be overwhelming to attempt. Somewhat related is the skills theory of leadership. Just like trait theory, it tries to identify a set of key attributes, but in this case, practical skills rather than just general qualities of a leader. The bottom line on this one is, if you want people to follow you, you need technical skills in your field. That is, you need to be good at what you're doing so you have some credibility. You need people skills like persuasion and diplomacy and affability, and you need conceptual skills, the ability to see the big picture and to think strategically. Next, there's the theory that leadership style is the key to success. Styles like be autocratic and demanding, or be democratic and participative, or be laissez-faire and leave people alone. Probably the best known style-based theory is called the managerial grid. Adopt a leadership style that's both people-friendly and uncompromising on performance. It's a solid foundation, but there's a bit more to leadership effectiveness. That's where these next couple theories came from. Situational leadership theory argues that there's no one-size-fits-all model. Certain traits and skills and styles fit better in one situation than another, so the leader must adapt. For example, coaching a high school boys team may imply a somewhat different approach than coaching high school girls. Same objectives and standards perhaps, but to get great results might require more of a disciplinarian for the boys, but a highly relational coach for the girls. A closely connected idea is called the contingency theory of leadership. Whereas the situational leadership approach assumes that the situation is static and the leader should adapt to it, the contingency theory assumes that the leader's default style is also pretty much fixed. Maybe he's more task-oriented than people-oriented. So the trick is to fit the right leader to the situation. Bottom line, effective leadership is contingent on matching the leader's style to the setting. In the coaching example, it would mean to find and install the right coach, rather than hoping the current coach will adapt his or her style to the situation. Transactional leadership and transformational leadership are two theories that we can consider together. As the term implies, transactional leadership means that there's a reciprocity of behavior between the leader and the follower. People will follow based on the incentives in place. So the leader's job is to find the right mix of rewards and punishments, and then closely monitor what's going on. The theory of transformational leadership, by contrast, says that leaders gain buy-in and commitment not so much from the quid pro quo approach as they do from encouraging their followers, caring for them, inspiring them toward a vision. In short, they get results by proactively transforming the environment and the relationships, cultivating followership, rather than paying for it or punishing non-compliance like the transactional leader does. Leader-member exchange theory is a bit like transactional theory because it suggests that leadership is basically about a fair exchange between the leader and the led. But it goes further to say that the exchange creates an in-group and an out-group with respect to the leader. And that, in turn, affects people's performance and willingness to stick around. In a way, it's just like being back in high school. There was the in crowd, and then there were the rest of us, and that can have some dysfunctional consequences. So the theory suggests that leaders may want to address their tendency to alienate people. And then there's servant leadership theory, which is kind of a blend between transformational and transactional leadership. Boiled down to its essentials, it says that if a leader makes a priority of identifying and meeting followers' needs, serving rather than being served, that leader creates an environment of trust and cooperation and reciprocal service, and ultimately higher performance. It's been popularized in recent decades by many researchers, but it goes back a lot further than that. Much of Jesus' influence, for example, was and still is a result of compassion and service and sacrifice. People follow out of love and gratitude rather than out of compulsion or fear. Alright, that's 10 of the major theories in leadership, and there are important truths in each. The better you know them, the better you're likely to lead.
Social loafing doesn't really interfere if you're in an individual sport. For example, badminton. If you're playing badminton, you could be fine and put 100% effort in because you want to win. But whereas if you go into a team sport, let's say rugby, you might not put as much effort in because there's loads of other people putting effort in for you, so you don't try as hard. Social cohesion has a big impact on sport. If a group trusts each other 100% would put their lives on the line for each other, then they'd have a better performance than if they had a bad social cohesion. So they might go out on a football pitch and look after each other against a more physical team, and then that would mean that they perform better and could be more physical because they look after each other out on the pitch.
The good points of group development is that whether it's a new starting team or an existing team, is that you can work together and make them better, so into a winning team. You can also use group development to get rid of issues or say like little squabbles within team or clashes of personality, and make it into a work so the team works together more. There are four main types of theories: trait theory, behavioural theory, interactional theory, and multidimensional theory. The positive of trait theory is that if you had a team and you saw somebody who was a born leader, then they'd probably be captain as a take charge of a training session or charge of a group they were working in, and then make it more so they could play the role. Behavioural theory is slightly different to trait theory, because trait theory is so they argue that a leader is born, but behavioural theory argues that you can make a leader. So if you haven't got one that's natural a leader, that behavioural, you can mould them into a leader and make them more confident, so then they can talk to a group and become into a captain type role. Trait theory and behavioural theory mainly look at the qualities of a coach and why they're such a good leader, but compared to interactional, where that looks at the effectiveness of the coach and how effective his methods are on making a player better. Multidimensional theory is mainly where if a group all acts together in the same behavioural pattern because they understand what the coach is saying and they respect and know what he's doing, compared to if they're not sure or there's a coach that isn't that good and isn't teaching them the right way, then they might start arguing between themselves because they're doing stuff wrong, but that's because the coach hasn't taught them the real way.